There is a major conversation happening right now in America about the possibility of a brand new program being called Social Security for All. At the center of this idea is the concept of providing $1,000 in ongoing monthly checks to every single person, no matter their income level, age, or work history. On the surface, it sounds like an ambitious plan, one that could completely reshape how we think about income support and financial stability in this country. At the same time, it raises serious concerns about what it means for seniors, disabled Americans, and those who have already paid into the Social Security system for decades. This is not traditional Social Security as we know it, but rather a form of universal basic income, and understanding the differences is critical, especially for those already struggling to stretch their limited checks month after month. You're watching Truth Lens, the channel dedicated to uncovering the real issues behind the headlines and breaking down what new proposals mean for seniors, disabled Americans, and families across the nation. Millions of people depend on Social Security, SSI, and SSDI to survive. Yet far too many seniors are living on checks that don't even cover basic living costs. From skyrocketing rent and grocery bills to expensive prescriptions and rising utility costs, older Americans are being pushed to the breaking point. At Truth Lens, we know this reality all too well, and that's why we break down these complex issues in plain language. Our mission is simple: to shine a light on policies that directly impact seniors and the vulnerable, and to make sure you have the truth you need to understand what's happening in Washington. The idea of Social Security for All is really just a new label being placed on something that has existed in theory for years. Universal Basic Income, often called UBI. UBI is the idea of sending out monthly checks to everyone, regardless of whether they are rich or poor. A billionaire would get the same amount as a retiree struggling on $900 a month. That's why so many people question this idea. Why should someone making millions of dollars a year receive the same payment as a disabled veteran who can barely afford food? Calling it Social Security for All makes it sound like an extension of the current Social Security system, but that isn't accurate. It is not tied to payroll taxes or years of work. It is simply a universal payout, no strings attached. To understand this conversation, it's important to look at where it came from. Guaranteed Basic Income programs, often called GBI, have already been tested across the country in small pilot projects. One of the earliest programs launched in Stockton, California in 2019. These programs provided a set monthly check to a limited group of participants, often low-income families, and the results showed that recipients were better able to cover their bills, reduce stress, and even improve their employment opportunities. That model focused on helping people who needed it most. By contrast, universal basic income expands that concept to everyone, which critics argue wastes money by sending checks to people who don't need them. Back in late 2024, the state of Oregon even voted on a measure to create the first universal basic income program at the state level. It didn't pass, but the fact that it even reached the ballot shows how much momentum these conversations are gaining. Now, as new ideas emerge in Congress, the push for a nationwide version is being branded as Social Security for All. But seniors who have worked and paid into the system for decades may find the name insulting because Social Security is supposed to be a benefit you earn, not a handout that everyone receives regardless of their work history. The core proposal being discussed centers on $1,000 monthly payments. In some versions of the plan, the amount could be as high as $1,200 per month, similar to the Support Act that was introduced in Congress a few years ago. That legislation called for $1,200 per adult and $600 per child for 5 years straight, but it never advanced. Even though it faded away, the idea resurfaces from time to time Advocates argue that programs like this could create a safety net for everyone, while opponents point out that it dilutes the meaning of Social Security and risks undermining the very system that seniors depend on today. For seniors on Social Security, SSI and SSDI, the biggest concern is that programs like Social Security for All could overshadow the urgent need to fix and strengthen the existing Social Security program. Right now, the average retirement benefit is around $1,900 a month, and many seniors receive far less. If nothing is done, the Social Security Trust Fund faces the risk of running short of full funding within the next decade, potentially triggering benefit cuts of up to 20%. For someone already surviving on $1,200 a month, that kind of reduction would be devastating. Instead of experimenting with new names and new ideas, many seniors believe Congress should focus on ensuring that the benefits they worked for are safe and secure. This is why the name Social Security for All feels misleading. Social Security is not just a check. It is a lifetime promise made to workers who contributed through payroll taxes for decades. Seniors know the sacrifices they made to earn their benefits, and they depend on those payments to cover rent, medications, and the rising costs of utilities. To call a universal program by the same name risks confusing the public and downplaying the sacrifices of America's retirees. Seniors have told us time and again that they already feel forgotten by Washington, and this proposal only adds to that frustration. Another layer to this debate is the concept of a negative income tax, which has also been floated as an alternative. Now, in this system, households below the national median income, currently around $75,000, will receive monthly payments to lift them closer to that level, while those earning above it would continue to pay taxes. For example, someone making $10,000 a year would receive additional payments to bridge the gap, potentially as much as $5,000 per month. While this approach sounds generous, it is far from reality and has little political traction. Still, it shows how creative some of the ideas have become as policymakers search for ways to address income inequality. But for millions of seniors today, these discussions feel like distractions from the real crisis. Retirees are struggling in silence. They are rationing medication, skipping meals, and delaying doctor visits because their monthly Social Security checks are simply not enough. Disabled Americans on SSDI face the same battle, with many living on less than $1,500 per month while inflation continues to climb. So programs like Social Security for All may sound bold, but they don't directly address the urgent needs of the seniors who built this country and paid into the system year after year. It's also worth noting that the rollout of artificial intelligence and automation is fueling these conversations about guaranteed income. As machines take over more jobs, the fear is that millions of Americans could be left without stable employment. Proponents argue that a universal payment would act as a cushion against economic upheaval. But for seniors, the problem is not job loss, it's survival. It's the inability to cover medical costs, the anxiety of unpaid bills, and the harsh reality of aging in poverty after a lifetime of hard work. At the end of the day, the debate over Social Security for All isn't just about policy, it's about priorities. Should America focus on creating new universal programs that give checks to millionaires and billionaires, or should it honor its commitment to the seniors and disabled Americans who rely on Social Security today? Seniors have already done their part. They worked, they contributed, and they upheld their end of the bargain. Now it's time for leaders to protect and strengthen the benefits they were promised. As these conversations continue, one thing is clear: the future of Social Security remains uncertain, and millions of seniors are left waiting for answers. They deserve dignity, security, and the assurance that they will not be left behind. While new proposals like Social Security for All capture attention, the truth is that real relief is needed right now for those struggling to make ends meet. At Truth Lens, we will keep shining a spotlight on these issues, breaking down the truth behind the headlines, and standing up for America's seniors who cannot afford to be forgotten any longer.